Hello, YouTube. It's Barbara Jean. I am. I think I'm going to have to do this in two videos. This is an important video. Um, Next couple of videos are actually very important. I'm going to try to make them in series because they're going to be very long. Um, I'm trying to connect some dots here for some people. There's some things that have been very disturbing to me, and something that's disturbed me for a long, long time, but they're important. Um, I tried to make a video before this, and I was rambling. I began to ramble because there's so much here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Noah. This is actually um, this is going to be a series on hybrids and salvation, and it's actually going to be an encouragement. Um, it won't sound like it at first, but it's actually going to be an encouragement for salvation, and it's an important series. I want you to listen very carefully. Uh, Please look up the verses that I'm going to bring up. Um, and I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, although for me, because I have a tendency to ramble a lot, this is this is not going to be easy for me to do. So please bear with me. All right. Um, I want to go to the book of, um, actually, where should I start? Let's go back to the thing that was disturbing me. There's something in the Bible that's always disturbed me. I've heard it all my whole life growing up in the church. I've heard this verse, and it has disturbed me. And I didn't understand why it was disturbing to me, but I'm going to explain it to you and also explain why it's an important verse. And it's an important verse for salvation. Okay, there has its obvious implications, but there's something else I wanted to bring up. Okay, this is the Great Commission. This was given to the apostles after Jesus Christ was uh, crucified and his resurrection, death, burial, and his resurrection. He's walking about. He has shown himself to several people. Mary herself had seen him in the garden and gave her a report, but the disciples still hadn't believed. The rest of the apostles, they hadn't yet believed that Jesus Christ indeed had risen from the dead. And this is what he says to them. Um, verse Let's start at verse 11, chapter 16 of Mark. And they, when they had heard that he was alive and had been seen of her, believed not. After they had appeared in another form, after that he appeared in another form unto two of them, as they walked and went into the country. And they went and told it unto the residue. Neither believed they them. Afterwards he appeared unto the 11, as they sat at meat, and upbraided them. He rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he is risen. So Jesus didn't appear to them right away. He was testing them, and he was letting them see that their own um, hardness of heart. It's not till we're tested that we are become aware of what we think and what we feel. And that's a lot of times why a lot of us are going through testings, is in order to, um, Lord is actually trying to expose the darkness inside of us, or our unbelief, the fears, our anxieties, our own misconceptions, things that we learned in school, things that we learned in church. He's actually trying to expose the darkness and the lies and deceptions to us. And it's often through trials and testing. And he was here testing the disciples to let them see that they were still not perfect in their thinking. They were still not perfect in their belief that God was able to do what he said he was going to do, that Jesus was able to do what he said. Now, Jesus told them he would rise from the dead, but they still didn't have the faith, and the Lord was showing it to them that their faith was still not perfect. And anyway, he says to them, yeah, he rebukes them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. And he said unto them, Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow him that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils, they shall speak with new tongues, they shall take serpents, and drink any deadly thing, and it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So then the Lord had spoken unto them. He was received up into heaven, and sat at the right hand of God. So interesting. The Lord Jesus didn't rise and sit with the Lord the Father until after he was taken up. Just want to make that little point there. And they went forth and preached everywhere, the Lord working with them and confirming the word with signs following. Amen. Now, the part that has disturbed me for some time, is this little word here in verse 15. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. That word has always bothered me. Why does he use that word creature? It seems to imply, to me, when I hear that word creature, I think of the animal kingdom. I think of lions and tigers and bears and pigs and goats and horses and dogs and cats and etc., etc. Is this what he means here? Apparently not. Because are we supposed to stand in a field and preach to the herds? I don't think so. Does that matter to them? Probably not. You know, there's a level of understanding about God that they have, but they are not. They don't need salvation as man needs salvation. Man is on a different level. We're the ones who are fallen. Okay. So what does it mean to be preaching to every creature? The word itself is actually kitsis, K-T-I-S-I-S. Literally means building, creation, creature, ordinance. So just to give you a little bit more um, understanding of the word itself, the word is kitsis, and it means to preach to or to examine basically every ordinance, to bring every ordinance under the good news, the laws of Jesus Christ. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. The setting free of those who are under bondages and laws and slavery and even genetic manipulation. Yes, genetic manipulation. It's to set free those who are under genetic manipulation. That means you and I. There was something that someone said to me, not to me personally, but I was listening to a video, and it never occurred to me. I didn't have any clue about hybrids really until a few years ago, when I began to listen to Tom Horn and Steve Quayle and Russ Dizdar and a few other people who were talking about the genetic manipulation that we've all been going under now. Most of us are unaware. Most of the world is unaware that they've been genetically manipulated uh, these many years since the Nephilim have reappeared, as in the days of Noah, back in the days of who knows how long they've been hanging. They've been hanging around for some time, but they've really had a foothold in our world, as in the days of Noah. About 100 years ago, they started to reappear in a big way uh, through many evil people, and these so-called UFOs started to appear in our skies, and Roswell and all the rest of it. It's all a part of the whole conspiracy. Conspiracy, I say the word. Conspiracy. Satanic conspiracy. And um, as a result, we've all been genetically manipulated. Now, I'll get into that in a bit. But what I wanted to talk about was something that someone said years ago, that I heard years ago, and they said they were talking in a program. This person I listen to occasionally, but you know, I listen to with half an ear. But occasionally, this person says some interesting things that I find something to think about. But anyway, this person said that unless you're fully human, you cannot be saved. That it's not possible for you to be saved unless you are fully human. That disturbed me, because I thought, why is this disturbing me? Why is that this statement this person made disturbing me? Unless you are fully human, you cannot be saved. Well, what's disturbing me about it is that it's not the truth. It may shock the living daylights out of you, but it's not the truth. Okay? And the reason is that most of us have been tampered with, physically tampered with, if not through um, um, actual hybrids, as in the days of Noah, where the sons of God came down and mated with the daughters of men and created these hybrids. We've all of us, every last one of us on this earth today, have been tampered with by the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, um, um, through vaccinations. This is the angel DNA. This is angel genetic manipulation through prescription pills, uh, through the things that we watch, um, uh, listen to, music. This is all about polluting the mind, about polluting the heart, about polluting our DNA. Okay, every last one of us have been polluted in some form. All right, so there's nobody here on this earth that's not been tampered with in some form. In fact, even Paul himself says, let's go to 1 Corinthians. There's going to be a lot of skipping around here, and I'm going to try to be concise about this, but I can't promise you that this is not going to be long because I got a lot of things, and I'm going to have to be doing a lot of skipping around here. This is actually going to end up being very helpful for a lot of people who are feeling that they cannot be saved, but particularly if they're of this mindset. Uh, that's not where I want to go. Oh, let's go to 2 Corinthians. Chapter 12. And let's just read this whole thing here. Verses 5 through 9. This is the Apostle Paul. Okay, now he was the apostle appointed by Jesus Christ to preach to the Gentiles, we who were considered unclean by the Jews. Why were we unclean? Because we ate bad food. According to the laws of the Jews, the Jews were given these special laws in order to keep the lineage of mankind as pure as possible, so that Jesus Christ could come into the world. But the rest of the world was tainted. The rest of the world was polluted by the food they ate, the things they drank, the air they breathed, the things they thought, the things they saw, the things they did. They didn't have the laws of the Jews. They didn't have these sacrificial ordinances that kept the satanic forces out of their societies. That's what the sacrifice was, of all that blood, all those bloods and the animals, the sheep, the goats, the bulls, the heifers, everything was to keep this Jewish remnant, these Jewish people, as pure as possible of angel interference, fallen angel interference, so that Jesus Christ could be born through this line of people. Okay? And we are all blessed. The Jews and the Gentiles have been blessed as a result of Jesus Christ coming into the world, being that pure lamb, being without spot or wrinkle, being sacrificed for our sins. He is the epitome of all blood sacrifices. No other blood sacrifice is necessary. That's why that temple, even though it's going to be built for the sake of the Antichrist, it's the Antichrist who wants to sit in that temple, people, that is going to be built. Not Jesus Christ. Jesus has his own temple, and it's in the New Jerusalem. There will be another temple built, but not until the millennium, until Jesus Christ himself builds it. But he wants to live in our hearts. He wants to rule and reign in our hearts. His sacrifice was enough and it's sufficient. All right? But all this to say that We've all been tainted. And here's Paul's own words on this uh, subject. And this is 2 Corinthians 12, starting at verse 5, I think I'll read. Of such an one will I glory, yet not of myself I will not glory, but in mine infirmities. So Paul is actually saying he has infirmities. He's got some issues, physical issues, okay? Physical issues are a result of the fallen DNA, polluted DNA. The perfect man, Adam and Eve, did not have infirmities. They were born perfect, without infirmities. Mental, emotional, spiritual, they were perfect. Okay? But Paul was born with an infirmity, meaning that his DNA was not perfect. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelation, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. So God allowed this infirmity in Paul to keep him humble. The same thing with us. None of us here on this earth are going to experience physical perfection, even emotional, probably not even emotional perfection. Although we're trying, spiritual perfection, we certainly can try. We are supposed to strive for perfection, but none of us will attain that perfection, particularly physical perfection, until Christ comes back and redeems us. However, here Paul himself, the greatest apostle for the Gentiles, he knew how to speak to us in ways that the other apostles who were Jewish, that's why they weren't chosen by God to be the apostle for the Gentiles as much as Paul was, or why Paul was chosen to write to the apostle or to the Gentiles, because of his mind and his ability to speak to us, and the way his mind worked. Um, anyway, he was given this physical manifestation of Satan's um, interference. He had a physical infirmity, and he's asking God to remove it of him, but God does not remove it from him. He says, this is what he says. Um, it's in order to keep him humble and to remind him of, I guess, to remind him of how much we all hurt in this world. Satan is here to hurt us. Without God, we are all lost. Without Jesus Christ, we are lost. And that physical infirmity reminded him not to get above his station, to think of himself better than anybody else. And think about it, there's a lot of people who have been given a great deal on this earth and have a tendency to exalt themselves or to think they're better than everybody else, who think they have more privileges and rights than others because they have been given so much, either physical beauty, money, resources, and we as mankind, we have a tendency, because of Satan in our heart, have a tendency to lift ourselves above our fellow man. And Paul was given this infirmity in the flesh, a thorn, a buffeting tool of Satan, not of God, of Satan, to remind him and keep him humble, and to help him to remember that we are all in tremendous pain on this earth without Jesus Christ, and that there is an eternal consequence to our lost state. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. Lest I should be exalted, this is verse 7, above measure through the abundance of the revelation. There was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice. So he really, I think when he says he besought the Lord, I think it really means that he really probably fasted and prayed a great deal, 3 times in his career here as apostle on the earth for the Gentiles, that he sought the Lord very, very strongly, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. More gladly, therefore, I would rather glory in my infirmities than that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distress for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Okay, now why am I bringing this all up? It's to show that we are all, every last one of us, are given infirmities. We're given things to buffet us in the flesh. None of us are perfect in our DNA. Not one of us is perfect in our DNA. Not one of us is fully human in our flesh. Because if we were fully human in our flesh, we would be like Adam and Eve, who was perfect in the garden. Now, this is just the beginning of what I want to say to you. So please stay tuned. Listen to my next video, because I will continue in the same vein. And it's like I said, it's in regards to hybrids, and the hopefulness of how God changes us on the inside to be like His Son. That there is hope for every last one of us who've been altered in some way through the water we drink, air we breathe, and we know that we are. You know they're putting things in our water, fluorides and cleansing agents, and who knows what else is going in our water. The food we eat, we know that they're putting chemicals and other things in our water, that they're putting the chemtrails in our air. We can look up and see that they're spraying us with all kinds of stuff. This is chemical warfare that Satan is using on us, people. When we turn on that television, when we listen to certain music, it has an effect on our DNA. That's all Satan's warfare on us, to change us, to try to change us. Why? To make us more susceptible to his evil lies and deceptions, to make us an open door for his demons, to fill us with violence. But the beautiful thing about this, people, is that God's grace is sufficient for us. And that is the hopeful word, that God's grace is sufficient for every last one of us. Those who believe and are baptized shall be saved. To every creature. Preach this word to every creature. Everyone in bondage, everyone who's been altered, everybody who's been tainted with. There is hope for you. Now I'm going to go on to the next video, and please bear with me. There's more to come.